Yeah.
Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Verona Township Council for Monday, the 8th of September, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Public Meetings Act and final statement?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township Council. The meeting time and date were included in the public meeting notice along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice of meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building and sent to the official newspapers of the township, the Verona City Grove Times, and the Star Ledger, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and handouts can be viewed online at veronanj.org/council meetings. A public comment period will be held in the order it's listed on the meeting agenda, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Hold roll.
Councilwoman Holland?
Here.
Councilwoman McGrath?
Here.
Councilman Roman?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy?
Present.
Mayor Tamburo?
Here.
Mayor also present is Township Attorney Brian Aloya, Township Manager Kevin O'Sullivan, Deputy Township Manager Michael Kraus, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Kidd.
Thank you. Would everybody please stand?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's good to see everybody. The mayor's report today. A couple items. First, wanted to congratulate the Verona Unico on a fantastic Labor Day 5K event. It was a pleasure to attend. Cheer everybody on the finish line of the 5K and fun run. Verona Unico uses the proceeds of this race to provide community programs and scholarships for a lot of Verona students, and also all of the support they provide for various different groups and needs in town. So congratulations. It's also great to see our legislative delegation there. Senator Phillips participated in the 5K, Senator Corrado, so it was great to see them there. Congratulations to Deputy Mayor McAvoy for his finish, though he was soundly beaten by Township Attorney Brian Aloya. This time around,
Again,
our Township Attorney is a beast.
The word soundly.
It was pretty sound, Jack. But you certainly finished a lot sooner than I would, so we should probably note that for the record, regardless. I would still be doing the fun walk now. I want to thank all of the members of the Verona Community Garden that donated their produce to the terrace. I thought it was really such a great example of community. We will be recognizing them with a proclamation at our next meeting. They were not available tonight, so we will be doing that in our first meeting in October to thank them for being phenomenal examples for our community. I'd like to thank all of our summer recreation staff, including our pool staff, our office staff, lifeguards, managers, and maintenance staff for providing great summer to all of our pool patrons. I'd like to thank our summer recreation counselors as well for their work. That those programs were a success and it was well enjoyed. And based on our numbers, we're clearly high participation. We also had some summer interns here in this building that did a lot of meaningful work. And thank you not only to our interns, but to our township administration for mentoring them in the projects. And it's great to have that cadre there. I'd like to thank all of our patrons of our summer recreation and pool programs for continuing their patronage and for trusting the town to provide that for them. Hope everybody is having a great back to school. I know I am. Great to see everybody. I think there's some energy in the school year for sure at the beginning, which is particularly interesting. It's one of the shortest summers we've had, with Memorial Day being late and Labor Day being early. Our last summer concert of the season is this Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Please join us on tomorrow. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Please join us there for that. We have our 9/11 ceremony on Thursday at 8:45 at our 9/11 memorial. I hope to see you there for that as well. And I hope you'll join us for the Sports Street Women's Club Taste of Verona event on Friday, and followed by our AHS football dinner to support our football players or cheerleaders in our band. It was a fun night there as well. At this point, I want to invite Mr. Coltrane, our county liaison, to offer.
Hey, good evening, Mayor, Council. The first thing is your alternate citizen, my wife, who walks around the park, noticed a manhole collapsing in the southeast part of the park. I don't know if anyone saw it. They did put some fencing around it, so that was taken care of.
Thank you.
Our county engineer said he went out for 12 traffic signals. One of them will be on Lakeside. So for that, we're moving in the right direction. Again, Thursday is remembering 9/11, and we have our 24th anniversary, and it will start at 8 a.m. at Eagle Rock Reservation. Hopefully, I know it conflicts with yours, but if you can come and say hello, we would appreciate it.
There's 9, Jen. Yours is 9 o'clock.
Or 8 o'clock.
Yours is 8 o'clock.
Yes.
And how long is that ceremony? Because it is true, it's hard to double.
I would say it's almost an hour.
It is almost
4 minutes. Interesting. There are a lot of I want to call them. People from the airlines who come, stewards and etc. They've got a lot of people from United Airlines, etc. It's a very, very well attended event. So you can make it, and we definitely appreciate it. On September 21st at 11 to 3 p.m. at the Environmental Center, we have our Fall Family Festival. I will leave these and send these all to the clerk. So if you'd like to post them, please do so. The other thing is, this is our second annual Road to Wellness Mobile Health Fair. It's Sunday, September 28th at 11 to 3 p.m. at the Essex County Branchford Park, Cherry Blossom Center. They have an array of wellness things happening there, and it's participated with Robert Wood Johnson, Care Plus, Kinder Smile, Rutgers University Cooperative Extension of Essex County, and an array of other agencies that are participating. We have our on Tuesday, September 30th, from 10 to 2 p.m. at the Richard Cody Arena, 560 Northfield Avenue, West Orange. We have our annual Essex County Senior Wellness, and again, a lot of hospitals and other participants to help our seniors do wellness, etc. And okay, one more. That's probably it. I thought I had another one, but I do not, and that was Tuesday, September 30th. Any questions, comments, anything else?
Any questions for our friend from City Level? Thank you, Jay.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
All right. Township matters, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very brief in touch base. We can get into the presentations for tonight. But briefly, the Fairview Avenue Well pre-construction meeting was held August 27th. That project will be, we await a construction schedule from the contractor. The Peckman River Bank Stabilization Project, we received bids, and we have a resolution authorizing award on the agenda for this evening. Our Linden Avenue reconstruction project should be out to bid within the next few weeks. We will expect an award contract at the second meeting in October. We continue to move through a number of improvements to the town hall building, which includes the completion of the town hall windows and repointing project. There are still a few minor items that are required, but we are moving forward with that. Additionally, the mold remediation, lead paint abatement, replacement of the HVAC air handler, and repainting the police department is complete. and the HVAC duct cleaning is scheduled. There's some additional work that is still ongoing, but we are continuing to move forward with it, all of these projects. Additionally, the roof replacement projects for the other facilities at the community center and some of the other ancillary buildings is being scheduled for public bidding currently. And then the last item I have that I'll address from my report is the Everett Field project. The project is ongoing with construction, and I'll actually use that as a, unless you have questions from the council on other items in my report, I would then ask if TDSL come to the podium to present the field house project that they've.
Any question from anybody on Mr. Sullivan's report that not already answered? All right, PBSL, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Dan Zarfino. I'm here on behalf of the BPSL. I want to thank you for having me, and I want to let you know that we're honored on behalf of the Verona Baseball and Softball League. We are honored to donate the field house at Everett Field. John Marchese and myself are in attendance from the BPSL. I want to thank the mayor and the council for everything you've done. You know, it's been a long process leading up to this point. So we're incredibly grateful and looking forward to the partnership moving forward. I'll let Christy finish off. Yeah,
Is there a better spot to put this?
You were-
This
that's-
is really.
that's fine.
Do you need it?
Thank you, good.
Okay. Give me a quick second.
We have.
Is anybody who follow wants copy? I'm assuming that I'm just architect of record, not swearing in or anything.
Oh, no, it's not fine. We're just gonna trust you, Christy.
Okay, so my name is Christy DiBartolo. I'm the owner of Mindful Architecture and architect record for the Everett last year. I'm a resident of Verona, and I have been a huge baseball and softball aficionado. So I'm just going to walk you through this very, very quickly. I'm sure, assuming everybody has seen this before, really hasn't changed much over time. The building is situated towards the north end of the site, which is where home plate exists today. Okay, the design of the site had actually already been completed when I came on board, so I was just given a concrete pad. Okay, so I wasn't subject to any input or whatever as to where. So the pad that I was given is 15 feet by 30. Here, 30. Adjacent to the building behind home plate will be a backstop, which will prevent the balls from hitting structure. It should be noted that the construction materials and the labor for this building are actually being donated. So by Mr. Zarfino and a bunch of his colleagues. So it's currently designed with these materials in mind, and we're hoping to retain those throughout. On the first floor, there is a concession access window, which is facing the current parking lot and the current concession stand, just to give you some orientation. So that's going to have a roll down door, obviously when the operation is focused to. Over here in the center, you have a storage area that has some equipment, the sinks, and then actually the electrical panels for the twin lights. In addition to that, access from the outside on the plan right side is 2 ADA toilet rooms. And then on the outside of that, on the exterior wall, there is a drinking fountain water refill station. Okay, there's a set of stairs here. This is a 2-story structure. You go upstairs, there's a meeting space up here, and then just the counter for the announcements. And then the 3 sliding windows are up here. They look onto the field. I'm going to switch for just a second to the elevations. The elevations are intended to have a vertical vinyl siding to them. And then the main roof itself isn't just a standard asphalt shingle roof. And then over the either end, There's a metal accent roof that's held up by wood brackets. So, I mean, that's really it. That's the extent of the building. I'm happy to get into other infrastructure questions or anything that you have, if you so desire, but this is pretty much the extent.
Questions from Steve Bartolo? So, comment, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Serpino and Mr. Marchese for being here tonight as well, and for providing the labor materials. It's really another wonderful example of community. Thanks. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, there's
You-
a resolution on the agenda for this evening. I don't know if you want to take that out of order at this time while VBSL is still here.
I have no problem with that. If there's no objection, yeah. Which trying to find which number. So,
EA.
EA, yeah. All right. Do you hear a motion to approve resolution E3A?
So moved.
Well, I'm gonna go with the deputy mayor on this one, and the second.
Second.
Okay, there we go. I appreciate everybody's exuberance to move it. Government really likes when free things are given to us. So we're going to
Entire buildings.
Yes, entire building structures and services. At this time, I'll open public comment on this item only. Madam Clerk, please read the public comment.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter, if you're attending via Zoom, you can raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're dialing in by phone, you can press *9. And if you're attending in person, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized before approaching a lectern. When you're recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. You're not required to provide your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meeting recordings are a public record and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council and there'll be no cross dialogue during this public portion. After everyone wishing to speak has been heard, the council may address your comments and or questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any comments in the gallery? Seeing no comment on Zoom. Close public comments. Any council discussion? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, Resolution E3A will be numbered 208.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Red ball?
Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
And now I want you to follow that presentation with Benji.
Come back to follow.
What are you giving us?
Ladies and gentlemen, come back. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to be here again. For several months, I've been dealing with, working with the administration and the Neighborhood Safety and Traffic Committee, to develop a complete fleet and green streets program. This program, worked hand in hand, this policy evolved, worked hand in hand with the Linden Street grant we have received, working with the Voorhees Transportation Center and the New Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. So out of that effort, which includes streets and some green streets policy flow. And for decades, the complete streets policy has been in the DOT program. And recently it has, they added the green infrastructure part of the policy. So there's two parts to the draft that you were given. One is just a resolution adopting the policy. And in the resolution, it gives some whereas and definitions that the complete streets part of the policy provides a comprehensive, integrated, connected, multi-modular network of transportation options through planning, construction, design, etc. For new and retrofitted streets and rights of way, for pedestrians, bicyclists, persons with disability, motorists, movers of commercial goods and transit vehicle users.
And then the Green Street part of it, then further on the page, that incorporates the sustainable green design elements such as green water infrastructure, traffic calming, shade trees, use of recycled materials to reduce utilized flooding, protect and create happier natural and social environment. So they're quality. The second page, the resolution goes on to say that the policy should not negatively impact the affordability of township neighborhoods for current residences. It applies to new construction, reconstruction, retrofit, resurfacing projects, and it involves both planning, design, and construction elements. So the policy itself evolved from a model policy that we received from the National Planning Authority, Transportation Planning Authority. And what we did is adopted it to Verona's requirements for Verona's situation and where we see things are and where we're going to go with it. And as a result, like I said, we worked intimately with it, with the developing the Linden Street plans, which Kevin said we're finalizing the plans we've got by the end of the year. So the first part on page 1, and I know you got it second, you may not, I don't want to read it verbatim, but I'll just summarize the key parts of it. So the transportation project shall strive to advance complete green street goals. And it lists the goals of safety, environment, economic, and health, and equity. So it applies to public and private transportation projects, including those using public funds. So then it goes on to say the cooperation is needed between the council, the administrator, and the engineer, police department, working with each other, as well as adjacent jurisdictions, and any relevant advisory committees such as the Transportation and Safety Committee. The next part says within 2 years of the effective date of the policy, the Township Council shall strive to inventory and audit procedures and policies consistent with this policy. So in conjunction with this, I went through the whole policy. There are some responsibilities which I've outlined in draft form, and once the policy is adapted, we'll be following through on the requirements and schedules that are outlined in this policy. Particular attention on the next page, number 6, is paid to maximizing safety at street crossings at schools, and a list of schools involved in the township. And what we say in number 7 is transportation projects should strive to include, where appropriate and not being cost prohibitive, sustainable design methods, such as traffic calming, green water infrastructure, shade trees, permeable pavements. The addition, and I'll further go into talks about the green infrastructure later on, but just in summary, green infrastructure involves possibly creating little water detention basins on the sides of roads, ways to trap the water and have the water go into the ground in an easier manner. When we're doing resurfacing projects, that is with existing rights of way, that's a difficult thing to achieve. So that's why we added in here. It's not deemed cost prohibited, and it's deemed practical elements. So we're going to strive to do that. It's not always practical, but that's the intent of the ordinance, and our responsibility to, where we can't achieve it, to justify why it's not included or what we have. We typically do include some permeable pavement issues, some shade trees, and a lot of the traffic calming measures, the other aspects of the Green Street infrastructure. There are ways there are exemptions to the policy that are listed on the next page. And in order to do that, the exemptions have to be in writing. And it lists the exemptions here. They're not regulatory compliant with other existing regulatory issues, and adverse impacts significantly weigh the benefits on a particular project, or cost of implementation is excessively disproportionate to the cost of the project. So, well, we're starting to do that, particularly if there's a private development that involves public streets. We will work with the developer and they will have to comply as a part of this. There's a section called program reporting where administration has to make available to the town council a list of the projects that were done and to what degree that with these projects comply. So that'll be part of the checklist that we have to provide by. Again, in the next section, complete and Green Street checklist, we're going to develop a checklist once this is approved of checklists to use by project teams during the project selection, development, planning, and design, funding, and maintenance of transportation projects, and that is reportable to the council from the administration. And everything will be transparent and to be online at some point in time. Then the final section deals with definitions, and it does talk about green streets here and green stormwater infrastructure. Types of practices are street trees, trench boxes that you can install which capture the water to feed the trees and take some of the water off the street. Design bioswales or the shallow vegetative channels that convey slow down filter water runoff with some vegetative bump outs, coming to paver. A lot of these sound good, but when it comes to trying to incorporate them on a resurfacing project where you're limited in your sidewalk and your trees areas, there's challenges with that. So we're going to have to evaluate that in each project. Traffic calming, we're employing some of that in the Linden Street project where we're narrowing some of the roads down at particularly over that bridge at Peckham Creek, and also putting a chicane in the middle of the street toward Parkview Avenue, where we're trying to slow the traffic down. And as we know, speed is an issue on that street. And that's primarily it. We have objectives. We have the policy that the complete streets policy has been around for a while, like I said, and it involves. We have bicycle lanes designated on Linden Avenue, and we will have to evaluate that on any future street we pick. Like I said, it's easier when you have new development. You can incorporate some of these issues right into the design of development, but you'll have to evaluate every new project that comes down, both public and private, right? With this policy when it's enacted. So that's a brief summary of the policy. We have worked with the neighborhood committee. They've seen this draft. In fact, the draft that's presented is the same draft that the Transportation Committee has reviewed, and they reviewed it with Kevin, and they came to resolution that this is the best policy we can have at this point. There's nothing to say we can't improve on it or make it better, or change it to what we find in the future. But it's a starting point to get this on the books and get it looked at as we review our streets to be paved in the future. Do you have anything to add?
I don't think, I think you've covered everything that there is to discuss. I will say that there was a lot of back and forth discussion with the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Committee to get to this point. I know there was building it up and whittling it down, building it up and whittling it down to this point where we do have a final recommended version of before us tonight. But this is, I think you've summarized it well.
So I have a bit of a mixed set of views on these sorts of proposals. And pardon me for playing the contrarian here. The concept of adding green infrastructure is fantastic. I always love to see that, and we know that that's necessary. But I found it very interesting when we did the Linden project that basically when we started to look at a lot of data that we got back, anyone who didn't live on Linden was in favor of a lot of the things that were going in. People who lived on Linden didn't want it. The only thing that out of all of that that really took was the narrowing of the lanes at the bridge, which made a lot of sense. People regarded the chicanes as being a serious traffic hazard because they force cars essentially into oncoming traffic. And generally they referred to the street as an obstacle course when we put it. We talk about speed humps and tables. That's another kind of constant topic of discussion here. Everybody loves speed humps unless they're in front of their house or if they're an emergency vehicle. So this is one of these things where the devil is in the details. I've seen cities, I see cities where they do curb extensions that are so large that again, you've got a risk of head-on accidents from turning vehicles at corners. So the concept of sort of requiring all of these things to go into a roadway is an interesting one. That puts it down a road where you just start going down and just doing this regardless of where it makes sense. I mean, I've read a lot about what makes streets the kind of streets that people want to live on, and what it tends to come down to is the fewest number of traffic controls possible on the street tends to define a residential street. And when you look at a lot of our streets here in the community, the ones that have the most like livable residential feel are the ones that don't have painted center lines, that don't have painted parking spaces, that are, ultimately that are just asphalt with stop signs. And the thing that tends to calm traffic the most is vegetation. Street trees are one of the things that are the largest. Street trees and allowing parallel parking on streets are the two things that tend to reduce the natural speed that people want to drive at the most. If you have a street that's clearly too wide for the use, people will tend to speed up on it. But generally, the more traffic controls you put on the street, the more people think that it's a major collector road when it's not. So that's the only thing that I would say is, there are great applications for these sorts of things, but sort of prescribing them as the default that every single street should have this set of controls on it. I just really kind of don't want to get to a point where every street that's more than 2 lanes plus a that's 2 lanes plus a room for parking all of a sudden starts getting striped. That's kind of what I would rather sort of stay away from. And I know this is kind of a popular thing in transportation planning, but I tend to look at the reality of what it turns into. So that's where, again, I know it's a contrarian view, especially versus the committee, but that's sort of been my opinion as I've seen traffic calming measures and studies on this sort of thing. So
Councilwoman Holland.
I don't have music at all. So I want to, I guess, address the green infrastructure, and it's interesting that my colleague did start with green infrastructure and then ultimately said that street trees are having a traffic calming effect. I appreciate that it's incorporated into the plan, and I appreciate also the sentiment that it's very challenging to incorporate things like bioswales into new roadway designs. Like the right of way is only so wide, you have to accommodate sidewalks and the like, and perhaps parking infrastructure. But I do think it's a really important aspect of our planning and future planning for Verona. We are a valley town, we're very flood prone, we do have a lot of issues with stormwater management, and I think it would be a significant benefit for us to do more of that kind of green infrastructure for stormwater management. So I do appreciate it's here, but that you do have like the caveat that, it'll be evaluated. I just want to make sure that that exception doesn't swallow the rule kind of thing, where it just ends up being that it's never ultimately incorporated, because I do think there will be opportunities where it can be incorporated. And I think it can be very meaningful and contribute a lot to our community. With regard to the concerns about Linden Avenue, I feel like the administration's addressed them before. That was, kind of a demonstration project. It's not consistent with how typically these designs would be. There were various different designs that were being experimented with during that process, and there was various amounts of feedback, but I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm not the liaison to that committee, but I do know that they were very passionate about this, and I do think that this is overall a very positive step forward for the community. So thank you for your presentation.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you. I am the liaison to the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee, and I do want to start with that committee's passion and advocacy for really making sure that we are a community that never experiences and tries to prevent really death and injury due to cars, which is only rising in New Jersey. Verona is one of the last towns in Essex County to have a complete streets policy. So I really would urge my colleagues to, when we review this, to really consider where can we start. This is not, as you've already said, a prescriptive policy that says, well, when every time we do something, we're going to do, 10 things or 5 things or even 1 thing, but just that we need to develop a process by which we put traffic and safety in the center when we do these road redesigns. And we consider things like accessibility and biking, because people do want safe, walkable and bikeable communities. We know this from research, and the committee members, which unfortunately our chair could not be here, and he's exceptional because he is a statewide advocate for biking safety. When he hears the replay on this, he may put together some thoughts and share some research with all members of the council. We know from our master plan survey that people do not feel safe walking in our community, and we want to make sure this is a walkable community. So I think this is a great place to start. As a process, we did get this late today. The Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee actually voted on a policy to send to the council. So we're going to check this draft versus what they passed. They're meeting next week, and they'll do a quick reconciliation, and if they have concerns with things that were removed, because the administration is recommending this policy, they'll send a memo. I'm sure they'll vote and they'll send a memo to the council. But I do encourage my colleagues to, really, one of the consistent feedback that we get from residents is about the traffic and safety on their streets. They don't feel safe. Cars are going at increasing speeds. Statewide, the accident statistics are only getting worse. And towns like Montclair have moved to a 25-mile per zone. They just revised their complete streets policy, actually make it more meaningful. The county is doing Safe Streets for All project. Everything's moving in this direction, and to be honest, we're at nowhere. So I would love for this council to consider adopting something so that we can move forward. But thank you, Mr. Tenkate, for all of your work on this and your advocacy, and for your work on the Lincoln project.
I do believe this is, to the best of my knowledge, it's the same policy, but I appreciate that checking, so make sure we're on the same page.
Thank you. Mr. Pancake, first, thank you for your time on this, and getting this to us, and it's very educational. I think when it comes to the council, I think everybody's in favor of safety of the residents in the community, whether they're in a car, on a bike, or walking and running. I do really appreciate the green infrastructure part of this, and to Councilman Roman's point about trees. As I walk, I run, not as fast as Mr. Roy, as he heard earlier today, but I plan my routes based on on a hot summer day, a tree-lined street. Sometimes I run up into Montclair on Highland Avenue because there's trees all down the road. So I think moving forward, I like when we do streets over to maybe try to preserve more trees, because we really seem to clear them all out, and I'm not a big fan of that. Neither is the door. But I think that's a very, very important part, because when you have that green infrastructure and nice trees and stuff like that, people gravitate towards those streets more. The interesting thing with this that it comes up tonight is, just today I was driving through Glen Ridge, and on Ridgewood Avenue, which is a very wide street, they have actually a shoulder line for their signs. I noticed on their lane narrowing, and I was coming up to a corner, and a biker coming down the side. Those, the lane narrowing or the curb extensions, I think we really have to think about where we put them, because the biker that was coming down the shoulder actually had to veer into the lane of the traffic to get around it to pass a corner. So I think where we put them, if plans come up, I will be looking at that and being very detailed on that. I think it's important to put them in certain spots, but like a street like Grove Avenue or Fairview Avenue, obviously it's county, and I hope they don't put these up. But what Glen Ridge has is just 3 of those temporary like balusters that are just sticking up and they jut out into the road. So I think we have to be careful with them because we have a lot of bikers and we have a lot of people on these little scooters, all the EVs now. So that's just my thought on this, but we will look at it moving forward. But thank you again.
And I'll finish with a couple of comments. First, just in the text of this on the, where it says complete, the checklist area. There's a reference to a complete streets oversight board, which does not exist. So we need to obviously correct that to, I don't know exactly what that would be, whether it's the Deputy Safety Committee or some kind of something else. So I would like to know more about what exactly that looks like. In going to the definitions, I share Councilman Roman's concerns about speed tables. Actually, speed tables are mentioned twice in both items 3 and 9, and speed humps. I happily ensured that when we redid the Verona project, that we got rid of the speed bumps because they were a problem, especially on streets that tend to touch water. My father's basement flooded from having the speed bumps on his street, and the town actually had to come and repave the entire street because so many people's houses actually, because we were especially after snowstorms. So that's one thing. In addition, if you drive through Essex Fells on what is that, Devon Road? Yeah, Devon Road. But unfortunately, there was an incident involving a death on that street that resulted in speed bumps being put there. A lot of people speed between the speed bumps to like make up their time, and it actually makes it more dangerous in some ways. So I feel like speed bumps are often seen as the answer when in reality there are other mechanisms. So we do not have any speed bumps. Councilman Roman beat me to this, but from an emergency services standpoint, they are not good on our ambulances to have speed bumps. When you have a patient with a neck injury or something like that in the back and you're driving with speed bumps, driving an ambulance with a speed bump is like driving a UPS truck, stuff bounces, right? You don't run into speed bumps. So I'm opposed to largely for that reason. And also, if you have a dire emergency, the speed bumps slow down every vehicle, right? Including ambulances, police cars, fire trucks. And we have to consider things like that. Where otherwise there wouldn't be barriers, because they don't just control the speed limit, because most of the vehicles are exempt from speed limits. Typically what they do is force you to drive actually under the speed limit and you're slowing things down. So that's a significant concern. I get worried when we have these kind of general definitions or general applications, choose from this list, because not everything's gonna be right for every street, and understand that this is just a toolkit. But I also think that number one, this is a resolution which has to be renewed every year. It's not binding in the next council. So that's something that we have to, something that would have to be addressed every year. So future council may disagree with us on some of these items, but at the same point, there needs to be some additional oversight as far as who the final approving body for any street project is going to be, because right now there are a lot of boards and staff and people mentioned in here, but the town council, as the direct representatives of the people, need to do the final approval on any street project and what is contained in it, because that it seems like this is more like, hey, we're going to do this, we'll let you know what's happening. And I don't think that really follows the representative process that we have by our charter. I heard Councilman Graff talk about statistics of the EMT in this town for 16 years. I responded to a lot of motor vehicle accidents. I'm trying to think through all of them, and I can't. I don't know if I've been on a fatal accident that has not been on the county road or state road. I mean, we need to look at that, which our policy wouldn't necessarily apply to, because the county is, we saw in the last, couple months has their own plans and policies and things like that. So it is, we don't I'm trying to rack my brain, but, the only thing about a pad on the street was on pedestrian on a non-county street, I suppose that or something like that. But it was sort of, you know, there wasn't really a traffic call. But I will look back at that, as well. But I think that's another thing that I don't want there to be an appearance out there that people think that our streets are unsafe, because almost all of the streets in Verona that are Verona streets are 25-mile speed limits already. They're residential neighborhoods. We have added significant numbers of stop signs over the years and things like that. I walk 3.5 to 4 miles every day in this town, as most people know. I've walked every street in this town, at least once. And understand as a pedestrian, my biggest concern as a pedestrian is safe crossings. And you know, that I think is worthwhile focusing on, but you know, moving through the neighborhoods, there are cars that drive quickly, but there's also things we can do for enforcement and stuff in those areas. So I'm not opposed to adopting a concept plan, but I think we need to put some things out there as well. But I also don't want people to, what I've been hearing from residents more and more, is people moving from the cities, is that they actually find Verona very walkable. And we see more people walking to stores and restaurants and stuff now. And I see a lot of people and talk to a lot of people out, so I don't want our residents to think that there's some kind of inherent danger in the Verona streets that this has to immediately solve, either. I would like to see statistics from our police department on where our serious accidents are, and what the causes of those accidents are, right? Because if we really focus on a policy that's data driven, based specifically on Verona's needs, rather than adopting a model policy that may not specifically relate to what we're talking about, that would actually presumably be how it's better in the long run. And certainly we can revise what we have. So I would put that out there. So, you know, we don't have Route 22 going through town. We don't have, you know, Route 20, Route 23 Pompton Avenue. We just installed another light there. But that's really crossing has been much more safe. I've used the light a couple times. You know, we have those things, but I want people to think our roads are not safe or walkable. As a pedestrian, honestly, I'm more likely to trip and fall on a cracked sidewalk caused by a tree that the town owns rising up than I am probably to actually get hit by. So I just want to put that out there, that I think this is a good start. I think there's some revision to do that should be very Verona focused based on the data that we have. That would be helpful in knowing. I think that, you know, people definitely have as Councilor Roman pointed out, people have a different concept for what is good traffic calming measures, whether they live on the street or don't. And that's something we have to reconcile as well, right? But finally, I do want to thank the Neighborhood and Traffic Safety Committee for their work on this. I think we value all of our committee recommendations. We don't necessarily use committee recommendations as a basis to make policy. But we can work with our committee commission, and this is providing that base to work from, which is very helpful. But I don't think that there's whatever should have been an expectation the council would simply adopt something, you know, in its entirety without a more lengthy process going through it. So I see this as something that we can look down the road. But I think every council member at this dais has been committed to traffic safety as part of our running for office here at the state office. And we have approved more stop signs than I think we've ever seen in the past. We have approved more traffic studies than I think we've ever seen in the past. And our police department does very good data collection with our speed boxes to determine the areas that need enforcement, which is helpful as well. And I also just want to point out a lot of these things, like I love roundabouts for whatever reason, right? Love them. It's just not something that we can do in Verona. Yeah, I don't see a place where we could easily put a roundabout. But it's in our policy. It would seem to me like we're not having roundabouts here, so why include it in the policy? You know, let's really formalize what might work in Verona. But so I think we have a good start. I think we can keep our dialogue with the neighborhood traffic safety committee. And we can keep our sustained efforts in providing a safe and walkable and drivable and bikeable company that we have been for the last 4 years with some guidance. So thank you, Peter, and as always, we appreciate your expertise and Tim.
Thank you. We'll take your comments and work to improve it.
Thank you.
Come back to it. Thank you.
Right, moving on to
Mayor, I do have the deputy manager's report.
Mr. Kraus.
The Blue Collapse Streetscape project has a kickoff meeting with many of the board and committee chairs this Friday. Regarding the reimbursement for the town hall improvements that are related to JIF claims, we have not received any additional reimbursement despite pretty regular follow-ups. We did hit the self-insured retention, and they are now getting passed along to the reinsurer, which we are just awaiting more document requests from them. The Verona Community Center concrete work is done, signs have been installed. We met with neighborhood traffic safety on August 15th. They had comments which were reviewed with the engineer. Paving is, we hope to do it in the next month. However, there are difficult to schedule someone at this time. And once it is paved, there will be striping. An offer of employment was extended for the accepted the director of community services position. We expect the employment process to take 2 to 4 weeks. At the pool, the amount of revenue that was collected exceeded anticipated revenue, which will assist with regenerating surplus. And the Shade Tree Commission has started working with arborist Gracie and Harrigan Consulting to complete a community forestry management plan and street tree inventory, which we are submitting a grant for to hopefully offset the full expense. There are 2 ordinances tonight. One is a recreation fee schedule update with some changes from the last time, and then a salary ordinance in the business for individuals not covered by the OPEIU contract. Any questions, Mr. Kraus? Thank you, Mike. You're welcome. Back to you.
Mayor, at this time, I would ask for consideration to enter into an early executive session for discussion of one item prior to moving into the rest of the business on the agenda.
We have a resolution that is L14. Would somebody like to move L14? Which should allow us to go into executive session. So moved. Motion is made by Council Roman. It's a effectiveness.
Second.
Second is made by Councilman Collins. It was good. And all those in favor? Aye.
I have to call the roll.
You guys can stay here. We'll go.
I have to call a roll. I'm sorry.
So you have to take a roll call?
I do. I'm sorry. Just for the reso. Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
You can say. Yeah, you could say. And that's up to the next session.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor L14 will be number 209.
Everybody, verification. We're going to move on to council member reports. Deputy Mayor.
With lengthy meeting tonight, I'll keep it short. Tomorrow night, we do have the concert. I too want to thank Unico for a well-organized Labor Day race. And congratulate the attorney for meeting everyone here. And thank our public works, our fire department and police department for keeping the streets safe while we navigate the test. I also want to thank the Southern Health, the rec department, the pool, and also our public works laborers that come out for the summer and help keep Verona nice and clean. And lastly, I will just wish the mayor a happy birthday. Hope you had a good one. That's it. Thank you.
In light of the remaining items on the agenda, I will limit my report to also wishing the mayor a happy birthday. Later on the west.
Thank you. Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you. The Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee had a meeting at the end of August. They had a really great seminar that is now on our town's YouTube channel on inclusive business hiring practices. This is a great resource for business owners, large and small, and that can be accessed on our town's YouTube channel. They are partnering with the Verona Public Library for Hispanic Heritage Month. They are planning an event on Saturday, October the 4th, that will be focused on Puerto Rican culture. And their next meeting is on September 24th. The Shade Tree Committee has moved their typical meeting to Wednesday, the 17th. As was already mentioned, they are working on their community forestry plan, and the Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee, which we talked a lot about their Complete Streets policy tonight. They're meeting on Tuesday, September 16th at 7:30 p.m. They also sponsored an e-bike safety seminar. E-bike safety is on the top of mind for residents in our community and parents and young adults. And so I thank them for their leadership on this area. I too attended the Unico fundraiser and Labor Day 5K. And I do want to echo all of my colleagues in saying how much Unico is such an important organization for our community, not just to promote Italian heritage, but to really raise necessary funds to support our youth, to support our first responders, to support our community efforts. They are a true partner, and I do appreciate them. And I want to echo what the mayor said about the Junior Women's Club of Verona. They're having their fundraiser, Taste of Verona. It cannot be missed. It is really a fantastic night of food and fun at the community center. It's on Friday from 6 to 9. You can go to tasteofveronamj.com to purchase a ticket. There are a limited number left. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you. I just want to wish everybody a happy back to school, back to fall, end of the summer. I know that sometimes it comes very quickly. And certainly with school starting the day after Labor Day is a bit of a harsh reality for my kids at least. But I'm sure for other residents as well. I do want to congratulate Unico for a very successful Labor Day 5K. And so it's one of the highlights of our year. We enjoy watching it from the end of my street. So that was a great time. I also want to thank all of the crossing guards and everyone that contributed to a safe and happy and healthy first day back to school this past week. So that was very exciting. I will echo some of the sentiments about the exciting events coming up this week. We have the final summer concert that was rescheduled till tomorrow night. We do have the Taste of Verona. I want to particularly note that we do have the traffic pattern changes at the Verona Community Center. There will be sports games happening that same night, so I just encourage residents to be mindful as you're driving to that event, and just so that everyone is safe and happy, both attending their sports games as well as the Taste of Verona event. And I do want to acknowledge that tomorrow night we also have a rec committee meeting. So I'm the liaison to that advisory board. They have put in a lot of effort and dedication into evaluating the pool. We did obviously just complete the pool season, so I know that they will have feedback on the revenue data and budgeting referenced in the deputy manager's report, as well as perhaps some recommendations that they'll be considering. Other items on the agenda include discussions of the turf and grass pilot programs, and certainly there's been a lot of concern about the fields over the years as well. So the committee will be discussing all of those and several other items. We have heard that there may be some robust attendance tomorrow night, so I do want to thank the administration for working with the committee chair to evaluate that situation and to be fluid if we do get a lot of residents attending, just to make sure that we can accommodate them comfortably, and so that they can still have accessibility and transparency to the meeting. So I do appreciate you working with the committee chair on that. Let's just make sure that we're safe in doing that. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. This time we'll open for public comment on any agenda item, any item, sorry, that anybody wishes to discuss. I do not believe we have changed anybody on our public, so the same public comment stays in. Anybody in the gallery wish to state on any item? Ms. Hines.
Hey guys, I am Elizabeth Hines. I'm a resident of Verona and I'm a member of the Traffic and Safety Committee. And I really just wanted to say a quick thank you to the council, to Mr. O'Sullivan and to Boswell for getting this on the agenda tonight. I think it's really important to get a complete streets policy on the books before some of the redevelopment projects in our affordable housing plan or others that are being considered were to move forward, because it'll be an important tool in our toolbox for us to be able to work with developers to help shape the transportation element of those aspects of those projects and perhaps get some additional benefits out of them for folks who live here now. Complete streets and traffic calming are not, they're certainly interrelated, but they're not the same thing. So the policy doesn't mean we have to do any crazy striping or lots of speed bumps, or because I think that's terrible too. Or really any particular traffic calming measure. It's really about creating rights of way, including sidewalks that are intended to serve people, all the people who use them, and not just vehicles. So it's really about incorporating that into all the transportation projects that we work on. I think complete streets are good for people because they keep us safe, they improve mobility, they give us more choices about how we travel. They make our streetscapes accessible to all people, regardless of how they travel, whether it's foot, bike, automobile, stroller, wheelchair, whatever it is. Complete streets are good for the environment because they make it easier for folks to make some of their trips by bike or on foot rather than by car. And they're good for business. There's a lot of solid research out there in the planning world demonstrating the link between complete street investment and increases in both residential and commercial property values and other economic metrics. So it's kind of a win-win-win. So I just wanted to say thanks again for getting this on there, for pushing this along. I'm sure we're going to be talking about it some more at our neighborhood traffic and safety committee meeting next week. So thanks again.
Thank you, Liz. Ms. Sharp.
Greetings, everybody. Council, Mr. Mayor, and Manager, thank you very much. Corey Shore, Verona, New Jersey. Almost dropped that. So I just wanted to support today the ordinance for the rec program fees. It started months and months ago, put a lot of effort into it along with the committee and the subcommittee. And I think it's a good step in the right direction as far as our fees are concerned. It's not the last step. These are just percentage of fees that need to be maybe increased a little bit in the budget, and that will occur months down the road. But I think, looking at the summer playground, and I think it's a good step in the right direction to have the right fees so that activities have the proper support. They have the proper activities, making sure that the kids are safe. So I think, and also, these fees also put us into where other towns where we're equivalent and we're not so low. And I think that's an important thing. One thing I'd like to also mention, I usually I don't mention it, but I want to talk about the emergency service building. It's the first time I've actually talked about it. I've listened to it for like the last year and a half. So I just feel with, there's a lot of different opinions about the cost. I think the residents all feel that it's definitely necessary, the building for firefighters and police department. But I think the cost and how to make it is a problem. And I think we're very divided on that, from the council, from residents. So I think the ultimate solution, whether it's this council or maybe a council in January, if it's the same, you don't know, is to probably ask the voters a referendum on that building. I mean, I think we just passed 3 years of rental facilities out here for the police. I think maybe it's something like this. You ask the voters for such a large pocket about what they want to do, whether they want to vote yes or no. And good examples would be the kindergarten program, the facilities for our schools. I mean, kindergarten was great. 2017, 2018. I moved into town and do one full day kindergarten. Of course, I voted yes for that because my kid just came out of kindergarten. So, and I have another kid who's going through it. So I think when it comes to facilities and big items like this, let the voters decide. And I think that would be the best recommendation I can give here tonight. So I'm excited about the fees, excited about the pool and all that discussion that we're gonna talk about over the next couple of months. But thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other comment on person meeting? Enough, public comment. Ms. Hines, thank you for the comments and to your sort of traffic safety committee. As is probably heard before, we got this policy very shortly before the meeting. And like any policy that comes before, there's a lot of deliberation that goes into these in order to making it the right thing. So do appreciate your work and your feedback and your expertise in that area. And I look forward to coming up with something that fits Verona and Verona's specific needs. So Mr. Shore, I do look forward to, I'll save my comments on your comments for the discussion on that item. On the emergency services building, I think all the council members, and I won't speak for everybody, that's why I think there is some general agreement that a building is necessary. It's how much the building costs and what it looks like. That is the question. The council is still even in deliberation on what that is going to be, and that is a process that will continue once we get our answers back from the township administration. We're going to be having some additional discussions. We'll say that we have discussed the idea of a referendum, and the concern with that at the time, and it remains, is one of the things we all tend to agree on is what's the necessary. The public votes down the referendum, and the council referendum is non-binding in this circumstance. Actually, I'm sorry, it is. It actually gets a little funky, but but if the council had to go against the public because we have some other legal issues and other things, because the building must be built, then we're not necessarily doing the right thing by the public. So we have to, those are the items I have to look up and think that would happen. But they're one of the things that council is trying to do is make sure everybody is educated on that and coming down. So I think step one at this point is to determine what this building would look like in terms of cost, and we have to make our next recommendation. Now, but I do have concern in the fact that when we talk about athletic fields or something like that, and some of the school referendum, which we're required to do, we're really asking voters if they think this is a priority project, right? And at this point, I think that one common thing that we have known, and it's an issue that we've known about 50 years. Without really asking the voters about that, we would be asking the voters about the cost, and we think that's something that we'd just be able to manage within this well. And I know we all have been making, which I have typically with township administration on some ways to get what we need, the program needs for less than just a sprint enterprise. But also caution that a lot that we're out currently includes furniture and things like that, that when we research against other buildings we've not published. It's something that we're having a little hard time disaggregating now because it was included in the original number. So all things that we're looking at, and I can tell you at this point, I do look forward to hearing from the township administration on the individual questions, so we can appreciate the comment. Any other comments on those things? Moving on to ordinances for introduction. Madam Clerk, the first item on the agenda is ordinance I-1 on first reading. Would you please read the title of this ordinance into the record?
Amending Chapter A 565 Schedule of Fees, Section 5 Recreation Department and Community Center Fees.
Move the ordinance, please.
So moved.
For a second.
Second.
The motion is made by Councilman McGrath, the second is by Councilman Collins. At this time, will open for any council discussion. This item, I guess I've discussed it, nobody else is going to. The ordinance as it is presented provides brackets, provides ranges for these prices, for these program costs. And I think that's, as far as the management of these things, that's good. I still think there needs to be some council oversight related to what we charge in a given year. I don't mind putting these ranges in to allow for necessary program fee increases to go up. I think that was heard the last time when we had pretty significant increases in some of these program costs. That's a lesson we learned from, raising the pool rates, which was, obviously you have price elasticity of demand related to that, as Councilman Roman likes to point out. But I think we need to be careful with that. These programs are public services. This is people pay taxes by the recreation department, and really shouldn't be using these programs to turn a profit. I think there's a utility certainly in covering our costs, but as far as we have to be very careful just raising rates for the sake of raising rates. So I will support the ordinance in its inception. However, I believe that part of this is that either by resolution or by some kind of advice and consent process, that the council should be on a yearly basis presented with what the rates are going to be and accomplish about it. That say in that, because I do want to prevent some pretty dramatic increases that happens, and we once again have representatives of the voters. So I think the plan is good. I think the incremental increases are good. I greatly appreciate the rec committee's feedback on this. This is the first time this has really been tackled in a substantive way. Mr. Short, thank you for your leadership on that. It matters. But in the end, there should be a process. Should go back to when things are going to be raised. It should start with the administration, should go to the rec committee, and there should be, if it's de minimis increase, like within the cost of living, I'm okay with that, CPI, whatever. But maybe work on something, and I'll have you hear recommendations from Sullivan on what that would look like. But I do feel that some reasonable cost increases are permissible. So I will approve the ordinance with these ranges, but with the caveat that that we shouldn't be charging the upper limit, on day one, and that's not in claim, which is good. That being said, I do want to raise the point that a lot of families in town are struggling with affordability of everything right now, with increased costs, with inflation, job markets getting more difficult. And we do have a lot of families struggling. These are not families that necessarily would be evident that they are struggling. So I think we need to keep that in mind when we set these costs. I know in the summer, like our summer recreation programs are used to offset childcare costs and things like that for working families, especially single parent households. And that's something that we need to be really pricing people out of those, or forcing people to make difficult decisions about what they do. But I think we also need to look at, is there, a way that we can help offset some of these for families that might be struggling. We've had the children's fund at the same point. The way that we look at requirements, a lot of people who are struggling still wouldn't be eligible for the children's fund. They're kind of in this this middle ground, right? So I would ask the administration, the rec committee, to look at, is there some way that we can, especially for increasing revenue on projects, find a way to gauge a sliding scale for people. I'm the product, of divorced parents during high school. I can say that, lives were not always easy. And I think we have that situation in town. Here, there's a teacher a lot talking to kids and helping them. And, it's something that we seem to be aware of as we increase these things, because they directly affect our youth population. So that is my soapbox for that. But I appreciate if the recommendation can look at that, and administration, but as well, see if there's, offsetting some of those increases. Councilman?
I'll just, kind of dovetail onto that, very much in agreement. I know when we have to raise fees, I always kind of do it sort of begrudgingly. I view success in a lot of these programs as being how many people can we possibly serve. I do appreciate there was some backup here about some of our increased costs, particularly around the ski bus, for example. And I get it, we do need to cover those costs. But yeah, I just, I'm willing to move forward with this. A number of these are basically for sponsorship fees, which is actually, revenue into some of the programs. But that's just my only encouragement to the administration is, just as we set the final fees on this, please, as data driven as you possibly can, try and cover the costs of the program, and just try and make it possible for as many people who want to participate in these to be able to do it, not to be priced out. I agree with the mayor's concept. People are kind of getting sticker shock on a little bit of everything, but I recognize the need to cover our costs, so I will support this.
Councilman Hall?
Thank you. I do want to thank the rec committee for the time and effort put into this. I know that there was a lot of analysis that went into it, a lot of back and forth with the township administration to gather the data to support their recommendations. Ultimately, the concerns are driven by the fee increases are driven by concerns that some of the rec programs are really very much in the red, and that this ultimately has the unfortunate effect of decreasing the quality of the services that rec department can actually provide to our residents. So I definitely considered and really hear the concerns about the affordability crisis, but at the same time, I think it's important that the cost of the services provided enable us to provide the quality of service that our residents are expecting. So there are certain programs, including the summer playground program, that have been repeatedly communicated to the rec department as being so cheap. In fact, I believe some on this dais as well have commented very flippantly about how it's like the best deal around. So some of these things can be addressed by improving the rec fees and having that opportunity for a sliding scale. Addressing ski bus is another opportunity. That is a program where the residents are very interested in the quality of services. We shouldn't be getting ourselves in a situation where we're running in the red. We have an opportunity where we can be charging fees that the residents are comfortable with paying, that they've articulated a willingness to pay, and that they can still receive that quality of services, and it doesn't affect other services or limit other services that some of our residents that struggle with affordability would have access to. Ultimately, I think, again, a lot of work was put into this by the rec committee, and I know that there was a lot of partnership and complementary work done by the administration to move this forward. So I do very much appreciate that collaboration. Thank you.
Councilman McGrath?
Yes, since everyone's talking, I will just add. I actually want to go a step further than the mayor's comments. In with the administration, I think it's wonderful that the Recreation Advisory Committee did this work. Honestly, this is the role of the administration, of the Director of Community Services and Recreation, to provide transparent information to the council on the finances of the department. I've had some conversations with residents that I didn't realize that certain equipment for some sports programs is not being funded because of budget cuts. There was a cut to a important recreation program for those children that are neurodiverse, and it had to be reinstated after we found money in a grant. So there are clearly some budget problems, and like when we see the budget binder at the end of the year, everything looks great. But what I'm hearing now anecdotally, what I'm seeing from this analysis that the rec committee did, is actually there were some stresses on this recreation department, and they're making choices and cutbacks that we didn't realize were happening, not buying necessary equipment. And with everything going on with tariffs and changes that are happening in the global economy, this may only escalate. So we do need, like, really, for when every season is over, we should be getting for our big recreation programs, swim team, basketball, ski club, the soccer programs combined, what did registration look like? What were the costs? What equipment was purchased? And next year, what is your recommendation on fees? So that gets to the proactive nature that what the mayor was proposing. So that we have like a debrief after these 3 seasons or 4 seasons. Because I'm not happy that we were caught off guard on how bad the finances were, like, within this programming, right? So I would like, us to have that level of transparency. Could go in the monthly reports that are actually so excellent that your staff pulls together. So it's almost like a debrief. And then the surveying that I've been pushing for years on, what is the quality of the programs, that can be included in that debrief. So, and even maybe the director can come in and give us kind of like a summary of how the last season of programming went. That would be great. Overall, I think this is a step in the right direction, and with rising costs for equipment, it's likely necessary. So I'm glad that we're introducing, but I also await resident feedback before we have a final vote. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Without being redundant, I just want to touch on, my thoughts on this is these fees, these increases seem very reasonable. I was gonna say what the Councilman Roman touched on. The major increases is the golf tournament, and that is, I know, for the Eric Mortensen Scholarship Fund. When Eric was the rec director, these other summer playground programs were free. So we wish they could be free again, but they wouldn't be sustainable. So I'm for this, and I would lastly I will be redundant and thank the rec committee for their time they put in this, and Mr. Shaw for all the effort and conversations we had.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Yeah.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro,
Yes.
Mayor Ordinance I-1 will be number 2025-15, and a public hearing will be held at a future date.
Okay, we're moving on to our consent agenda. I'm pulling resolution L8, especially trust of the deputy mayor. The other resolution, the I'd like to move to consent agenda. So move K1 and L1 through L7, L9 through L14, and moved by the deputy mayor. Is there a second?
Yeah, just mentioned there, we already passed.
We did, but we might as well pass it again for the next one.
Well, then in that case, I'll second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded,
Sorry, who made the motion? I'm sorry.
the deputy mayor.
Thank you.
By the council. This time I will call for public comment on any consent agenda items. We will have public comment for L8 at this time, we'll just, instead of calling it public comment again at a separate time. Any public comment? Being that the entirety of the public sitting in the room is paid professionals, that is unlikely. Anybody on Zoom? Hearing none. All right, any council discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
We're just doing L8, correct?
No, we're doing K1.
Okay, thank you.
1 through L7,
Okay,
L9 through L.
thank you. Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, L1 through L7 and L9 through L13 will be numbered 210 through and including 221.
I will move L8. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconds made by Councilwoman McGrath. This time, is there any council? I'm gonna just make a. Am I allowed to make a brief comment? It's okay. I'll just give a little procedural history. Actually, maybe Mr. O'Brien could give a little procedural history and all. Just on what this item. This is a pretty significant item, so I just thought that.
Sure, so L8 is the, as the title indicates, is a settlement agreement between the Township of Verona, the planning board, and a company called DNH2. They're the owners of the property that I describe as directly across the street from the car wash with the big wall. So this settlement agreement is entered into after years of litigation wherein they got permission to build a mixed residential commercial development there and do a lot of blasting and whatnot. And they sat on those permits for a period of time. And then it was the permits were no good, and then they entered into litigation, which actually did include the township, but did include the township because they went after the Verona Planning Board. And then after a great discussion, the court granted them the ability to build, and then they had other monetary damages that they were continuing to follow through, which that led to structuring this. And without getting all the details of the litigation, this settlement agrees to allow them to build an 8-unit building, which is much smaller than they wanted, so that they were what the township ultimately wanted, with 4 units of affordable housing and parking and whatnot. It also dedicates the back area of the property to be dedicated to the township. It's not being developed, be restricted. So it'll be some open spaces.
Thank you. Just as a general comment, I want to thank our administration, Ms. Siobhan, our planner, our special counsel in this, Samara Barney, who both have been involved in this, and Mr. Loya. I think this, with the court case that was put through, the building that could have been built in the circumstance that the courts allowed would have been disastrous for the neighborhood and for Verona, would have shaken the foundations of Brookdale Elementary School as they're blasting away rocks and so forth. And after some negotiation, looking at several design plans, this is one of those instances where the council's ability to negotiate this with the developer is going to result in a much better product. That I don't necessarily go through all of but you can look at the planning board meetings where there was a three-story building with a story of parking, which we're able to mitigate and turn that into a 3-story residential building with full parking to fit better into what we need for the town to be more visually appealing. There are provisions in here to limit the neighbors on Westview Road from seeing things on the roof, like ventilation shafts. There'll be some fencing up. Any of the outside kind of things will be moved toward Winter Avenue. This was a pretty significant and detailed and complex negotiation, but I want to thank all the members of the council, except for Mayor McAvoy, who was conflicted on this item and had to recuse himself throughout this entire process. But for having stamina to engage in thoughtful negotiations, and I'm glad that our ideas turned into reality here, and that this building turned out to be something that will fit into the neighborhood, that will provide us some affordable housing, and will be a much more responsible and reasonable development than it's originally been. So just some thoughts on that. So I look forward to voting yes. In the council.
I will just,
Sorry.
just so that public knows, I will be recusing myself from any comment or voting on this application. That is the
True resolution.
I'll just echo some of the mayor's comments that this has been a long discussed project and parcel. I am very appreciative of all of the efforts of everyone from the township who has worked to bring this to a resolution, as well as the developers' willingness to cooperate and compromise with us. It's good to see this being decided on and wrapped up, and I agree that the end product for this will be much more compatible with the neighborhood. It reflects the current market for housing. We worked a lot on this to try and get this right, and I'm just pleased to see this on the agenda. And just again, thank you to everyone who worked to get this to this point. Look forward to supporting this.
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman.
Yes.
Sorry, Mayor Tamburo.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor, L8 will be numbered 222 and it passes 4-0.
Thank you. We do not have any licenses or permits for agenda this evening. We're moving on to our first ordinance discussion. Is salaries compensation of non-union staff for the township. Mr. Kraus, did you want to give some background on this for the public?
This ordinance, should it move forward, would just provide the standing cost of living increase to the non-union positions that the OPEIU received, which is 2.75%. There are two exceptions to that. The Director of Community Services position, the maximum allowable salary is increased to 110,000, which what was advertised to recruit talented applicants and make an eventual offer that was accepted. And the confidential secretary to the township manager, that position, the proposed salary mirrors the certain steps on the OPEIU scale.
Any questions for Mr. Kraus? Councilman McGrath.
This is more of an observation. So it has been our past practice that we only pass these at 1 year at a time. So you're requesting that the council pass 3 years of salary increases. Normally with this ordinance, we do 1 year at a time. So is that your recommendation that you want us to just do 3 years versus what we've normally done, which is we would just pass the salary on 2025? I mean, I'm mistaken, right?
I mean, I would defer to the council's preference on that. I think getting the 3 years done is consistent with the 2.75 of the OPIU contract. However, if there is a preference from the council to simply adopt 1 year and then consider the 2026 salaries in 2026, then we can defer that vote until that time.
I think my concern is that we seem to be in a very dynamic environment financially. So I guess my other question is, this is a maximum, not minimums. So there's a minimum and then it's 3 years of maximum. If we were to find our finances are really topsy-turvy, I mean, what is the administration, would the administration consider, holding salaries flat even if we passed a 3 year? I'm just, trying to, it's a, if you pick up the headlines, it's, we don't know, if we're heading towards a recession or not, my question is, how do we adjust for a dynamic environment financially if we kind of lock in these expectations?
Well, as you did mention, it is a range, so it does provide a minimum and a maximum. With the consideration that you're raising, I think each year would have to be evaluated on a case by case basis. I think it could be difficult for morale of the employees and department heads who do put in a lot of time and effort to provide them something less than what they're seeing their subordinates receive. It's difficult to pass something along those lines. So my recommendation would typically be to try to accommodate a budget that can afford that. But if situations dictate otherwise, then it would have to be reevaluated at that time.
And then finally, how, if you can explain to the public, how does, a lot of residents are, they are in environments themselves, like, pay for performance. So how do you deal with if someone is on a PIP or, is a low performer? How do you deal with that in this environment with, it's a maximum again. So what does that mean? How does that work out from your point of view?
Right, so each of the department heads would undergo annual employee reviews. If any of them were receiving less than satisfactory remarks on their performance, then the potential full raise of the 2.75 could be withheld or partially withheld until they demonstrate an improvement on their performance. Although it would be based upon a case by case and then an annual performance review of those department heads.
This has happened the last 2 years, just to remind the council that we did have a situation where a raise was withheld and reported to us. That's Roman.
The other challenge of doing a multi-year is if we have a retirement in any of these positions, it kind of implies that we're going to rehire essentially on the same scale and not really get any breakage if we, depending on what the experience level of a new employee a new manager would be. Several of our department heads are very long tenured. A lot of them have longevity pay that was folded into their salaries at some point in time or another. So, it's the people that we have, we know that they're a great team. But as we, if anyone retires, then, it might be an opportunity. It might be a time to look at what the market rate for an individual position might be and hire at that market rate rather than just kind of assuming that it's going to be, the existing salary plus a COLA. So that would be what would make me lean towards doing a single year. And then again, just the tradition is we have never done department head salaries over more than a single year. Again, it's just for our intent to be sort of responsive to the current state of affairs. We've generally offered an adjustment. Sometimes we tweak that adjustment up or down if we do have a tight year. So I kind of lean towards a single year, just simply because again, our financial environment could be challenging over the next few years.
I just want to take your point on that. We are in now September of 2025. So I see the point on maybe 2027. But at this point, we're already working on constructing the budget for 2026. And these department heads do a lot of work and go well and beyond, and a lot of them answer their cell phones at 9 o'clock at night. But it's been 9 months and they haven't seen an increase in compensation. And they actually, by the time this ordinance is adopted and advertised, it will not be until December that they actually see any increase. So I would be of the mind of approving the 2025 and 2026 salaries, being that would bring us to 2026. And the administration would be able to include these in the budget. I think I agree on the 2027 piece where we haven't gotten that budget point yet. But we have asked people to go without an increase when CPI is increasing for the first 9 months. And even though they would get retroactive salary, it still hurts when it's happening. So there should be some understanding that most people generally, when you do have compensation increases, are reviewed prior and they get it the next year. It's highly unusual to not have your compensation increase until 9 months into the year that it's applied. But in this circumstance, I believe the administration waited to wait for the OPIU contract to settle. But this is not the first time that I've been on this council that we've approved this into the year. I don't think that's great for as the manager pointed out, staff morale and staff appreciation. So my recommendation would be to strip the 2027 off. And then as far as a new position, if we go somebody that's hired, We were able to revise the ordinance at that time on that line. My only, yeah, I think we could just do that for 25, 26. I was gonna bring up 27s for the township manager. The 27 salary has actually been pre-negotiated and adopted as part of business employment agreement. So that could be in here. And for the confidential secretary to the township manager, if this is mirroring tradition of the LPIU, they have a 3-year agreement. We can include this, or we could just do them all again. But there are some opinions out there. But my recommendation, I hear everybody's points, but just do 25 and 26 because it'll probably be you'll see this in technical January anyway. By the time you update it and do all of that stuff, regardless.
It's fair.
Okay with you, Councilman?
Yes.
All right, so I think we have a consensus to remove that chart and introduce on October 8th.
Six.
Thank you. All right, next we have some appointments to the support. I'm just, for the sake of making this go quicker, I'll just read the notification. So for the Environmental Commission, for alternate number 1, for a term expiring 12/31/2026. I move that we appoint Kelly DiGeronimo. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Okay, and that Councilman Graham offered her extension early, which is good. And for the green team, which is Sustainable Verona, that's that. And I would move Casey Cisco and Rebecca Delgado as service. Okay, these are both their unexpired term. The full member is expiring 12/31/2025. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none. And the planning board appointment will be at the October 8th. October 6th meeting. At this time, is there any other new or unfinished business? No? Okay. At this time, I'll open for public comment on any last item that anybody wishes to bring to our attention. Same public comment statement applies. Now I close public comments. We have already resolved to go into executive session. Will any official action be taken? No. No. I think we'll see everybody on October 6th. Love it.